Welcome to our episode of Apartment Saturdays, and this week I decided to take a look at William the Conqueror. And this is originally a French film that was released back in 2014, 2015. The Internet Movie Database says 2014, Wikipedia says 2015 this came out. And this was originally a French film, known, literal translation is like William the Young Conqueror. So this is a historical film covering the legendary backstory of William the Conqueror before he invaded England. The film starts out with them, waiting at the beaches in Normandy, preparing to launch. And we have, William show up and introduce his heir apparent, to some of the soldiers and tells them they need to swear loyalty to him and whatnot, named after his father. Before, his son gets told by one of his closest allies, a bunch of, stuff in a flashback, how his father rose to power originally as the Duke of Normandy, which, is okay, I guess, but feels like you could just set this film, at the starting point, of his father going off to introducing his William to the other barons before he went off to war, and all the controversy surrounding the fact that he was born out of wedlock.
His young virtues prove his ability to rule one day.
He is a bastard. Rome will never accept him as a duke.
Or at least wedlock as far as the Christian, barons would be concerned. So, yeah, like, there's definitely stuff that could have been way better, in terms of this movie, because they could have definitely cut some stuff out, and you wouldn't have lost that much. I mean, I know they wanted to do this more as a historical drama, and try and focus more on telling the story a bit more accurately than probably most would, but it leads to a rather slow-paced story with amateurish actors, because this was definitely done on a low budget. And the fact the English dub has some really wonky, dubbing over moments, misplacement of sound effects, and one line that's just absolutely hilarious, and you're left with a film that just, is unintentional comedy at times, but for the most part, it's just a snooze fest. Like, there's a lot of fighting in this movie, and even the fighting's not enjoyable a lot of the times because either it's repetitive or it's not serious. Like, there's more than a few fights that are just practice training fights, and they're usually just involving characters seemingly swinging sticks, rather unimpressive speeds. And then, when we do have the serious fights, they're so up close and personal when they're doing the shooting, you don't have good angles of the action, so it's hard to follow what exactly is going on, who's winning the fight entirely. We just know that swords are swinging and they're just, like, really up close and personal, face to face. And, like, it's not a good way to shoot a fight. You want to give people a better view of it than that. You gotta be a certain distance back so people can follow the flow of the action. Because, when you're pushing someone back, it feels like you're in control of the fight. When you're this up close and personal, just pushing swords face to face, it's just not very engaging. And that happens more than a bit with this movie, where it's just like they're way too close. So you can tell, the cinematography is not the best either. And the fact this was originally in French and the English dub, like I said, is not that good, and you're left with a bit of a snoozer, really. A lot of the dialogue feels really awkward because they're trying to do a dub over with the lip flaps they have. So yeah, maybe this would have been better if I watched it in the French, but then I have to turn on the English subtitles. Though oddly enough, we do get French subtitles, also, and just pop up at random for some reason. I'm guessing the dialogue there was originally supposed to be like in Norwegian or something. So they put in some French subtitles that'll pop up when the characters speak. But this does not make any sense in the English dub, because all the characters speak English all the time, no matter who it is and what language they're supposed to be speaking. So, yeah. Add in the iffy French accents they're trying to put on, and you're left with a film that just, like I said, it's not good. I mean, I know it's meant to be more of a historical drama, but still not good. Plus, there's just the whole fact that as a historical drama, with the story being told from the flashback perspective, of one of the characters that was there, we're left with a story where most of the drama had to center around, William and his best friend, since we know they're going to come out okay, because, we know William's going to come out because, he becomes a conqueror after his youth, and takes over England. And his best friend has to be okay because he's the one telling his son the story. So, am I really supposed to get all that invested and care about these characters, being hurt in these fights that aren't very good to begin with? It's just like, yeah. I know they were trying, but it's just not a good movie. Till next time, then. See ya.
This bastard isn't William! You making a fool of me?